everybody for joining. Don't forget, today, technically, tomorrow, today, I never know what to say. It's 1 a.m. So at 1 p.m., I'm going to be doing a abridged live stream. Actually, shoot, I feel like it's a little bit too dark. Give me 1 second to turn an extra light on over here. The light I normally have behind me is not working. It's a pain in the butt. There we go. So, 1 p.m., December 17th, I'm going to be doing an abridged live stream coming at you from the Superstore in Dougal Avenue because at at 1 p.m., 2 p.m., I'm doing the Salvation Army Kettle Bell Ringers. I do that every year. It's something I love to do. And so I'm going to be doing that again, and I'm going to be streaming actually my personal channel a little bit while I'm there. Just reminding people to come see me, to come say hello. With that in mind, welcome. Let's chat about Freemasonry. Any thoughts you guys have on Freemasonry? Positive, negative, or neutral? I'd love to hear them. These 1 a.m. streams, I don't have any topics. The 1 p.m. streams, I do have more specific topics. Like today, or the 1 p.m. topic coming up, it's going to be about charity and how we as Masons can practice different types of charity. Seems to make sense since I'm going to be doing the Salvation Army kettles. Hello, Lincoln Atlas. How are you? Thank you for joining. As always, I hope you're doing well. Oof. Getting a cold always sucks. I hope you feel better. I've been getting over, I think, a little bit of a cold, which makes sense from all the travels I have. So it probably makes sense that I came down with a little bit of a cold. But I'm feeling okay. Like, genuinely, I think I'm doing all right. But I do always get myself flu shots, just for the record, to protect against something as well as COVID, as well as other vaccinations. So at least I try to do my best when it comes to that stuff. Gets cold, it gets warm. Yeah, the weather has been very interesting, shall we say. That's my cat behind me. Believe me, I know, because I traveled from Bogota, Colombia to Chicago. So I went from relatively warm and nice weather to absolutely freezing cold temperatures. Getting off that plane in Chicago, even just going through the jetway to get from Chicago to get from the plane to the airport, it was freezing cold. Reek Wan. Well, I'm not sure about how much I like being called baby girl, but I do hope you'll still hit the like and subscribe button nonetheless. And thank you for being here. I mean, I don't think it's that shocking. I think if you are going to produce a television show that's going to be on for decades, you are going to be making a lot of predictions. You're going to get a lot of them correct. You're also, I think, to produce content, to produce a television show as popular, as timeless as The Simpsons, you need to be, I think, a really, really good observer of human nature and human behavior, which makes you probably better able to make predictions about the future, is my suspicion. I'm not a genius, Bryant, but I am a Freemason. I'm also very handsome, if that helps you. I have been to San Francisco, Jay from the Bay. I love San Francisco. San Francisco has the Grand Lodge of California, which is an absolutely incredible and amazing building. One of the greatest Masonic Grand Lodge buildings in the world. Brothers IA, hello. Please hit like and subscribe. Nala Pinate, IQ 97. I have no idea if that's good or not good. I hope you hit the like and subscribe button, though. Nonetheless. Oh, Prentice Davis. I've been to Chicago dozens and dozens of times, and I absolutely adore it. If you follow me on social media, you know Chicago is one of those cities I can't stop talking about. I was just there, and it's absolutely incredible. We in Freemasonry don't have secrets. We have private ceremonies, but that's not the same thing as being secret. That's being private, and there's a reason for that. Well, maybe I just have a cool voice, a cool, deep voice. Rich Gold, please hit like and subscribe. Bryant Anderson, please hit like and subscribe as well. Adrian from Germany, thank you for being here. What time is it for you in Germany? It's 1 a.m. here. There's a lot of cool Freemasonry in Germany. Actually, I was just in Bogota, Colombia, staying in a hostel, and there was a couple of backpack travelers there from Germany. It was fun talking to them. They were traveling through South America. They said the thing that they missed the most about Germany was the bread, which they said, Germany has the greatest bread in the world. So, 7 a.m. Okay, so yeah, you are, at least you're not up crazy late. This is a great haircut, Rich Gold. I don't know what you're talking about. But if you want to help me pay for a new barber, consider doing a super chat of just 99 cents and hit that like and subscribe button. Would be very much appreciated. You may, Adrian, but Illuminati really doesn't exist anymore, at least not in any meaningful way. It did, pop up in 1777 under Adam Weishaupt. I'm not saying it doesn't exist at all, but it doesn't exist in a meaningful way. Lex, hello. Rodriguez, hello. And I don't know how to pronounce that. Cochrane Cult. Please hit like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I would rather live in Canada and be me. Why would I want to be anything else and live anywhere else? I love who I am and I love living where I live. So that's a weird question. I don't know the Illuminati because there is no Illuminati. I know about the Freemasons. Wrathful Nomad. So they are not. That's a big misconception that exists for a few different reasons. The Illuminati came into existence after Freemasonry. It actually was started by a gentleman named Adam Weishaupt, who was a former Freemason who started the Illuminati because he didn't like Freemasonry. He thought it was too expensive, and he also thought it wasn't esoteric enough. It is its own separate organization that it existed off and on for a couple hundred years, but really it hasn't existed in a meaningful way since, the early 19th century, I would say at least. A lot of scammers, though, took the term Illuminati, tied it in with Freemasons because a lot of people knew about the Masons and would scam people by claiming to be part of the International Masonic Order of the Illuminati Masons or something like that. Thank you, SunWham3, for subscribing. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. Hi, Frank Fatha. It's great to have you here. Who were the Sumerians? They were an ancient civilization who were connected to the Egyptians. Came from, if I recall correctly, the Middle East, Turkey. So far, Freemasonry has not cost me my whole life. Now, it's cost me time. Without question, it's cost me a lot of time. But in some ways, you could say it's given me a life, or at least a certain type of life that I greatly love. Albert, Israel is not the Illuminati. Israel is a country. Illuminati is a formerly existent organization. Interesting enough, though, I am a member of a Masonic Lodge in Israel, Lodge 29 number 50 out of Israel. Yes, actually, I got my water right here. Late too much. Please hit like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I'm 2 subs away from 3,060 subs. I don't know if we rule, but we're pretty awesome. We're certainly the most handsome of people. There's no question about that. You can ask anybody who is the most handsome. It's Freemasons. So, to be a Shriner, you must first be a Freemason. However, you don't get the fez unless you are a Shriner. So I never joined the Shrine. So I do not have a fez. But maybe one day. Sicilians, hello. Thank you for being here. Rich Gold, what degree Mason am I? Everybody always asks that question. I'm the most important degree, which is 3rd degree Master Mason. That's the degree that matters the most. Having said that, I'm also Scottish Rite 18th degree. Juan Gonzalez, we were talking about Freemasonry. I do these streams 1 p.m. and 1 a.m. Monday through Friday. 1 a.m. streams, Eastern time. I don't have any specific topics. I just hang out and chat and answer questions in the chat and ask people to hit the like button and subscribe button so I can get hopefully to 3,060 subs. Um, it's the 33rd, it's not every degree, it's the 33rd degree to which you have to be invited. The 4th through 32nd, or Scottish Rite does have 3 craft degrees as well, but 4th through 32nd is not given to you. You just apply to join the Scottish Rite and you apply to go through the degrees. Oh, ice wall is real. We got a flat earther. You could call it a gift, Rich Gold. I don't know if I'd use the term gift. I would perhaps be more comfortable with the term honor. It's an honor. It's an honor to receive. Promptoria, would it matter if I was? It doesn't matter to Freemasonry. I know many, well, not many, but I've known gay Freemasons. Freemasonry does not discriminate based on sexual orientation. I'm not Russian, I'm Canadian. And, I love Canada. Having said that, I know a lot of Masons from Russia. Well, I'm allowed to talk about whatever I want. There are some things I choose not to because I took an obligation. But choosing not to do something is not the same as not being allowed to do it, right? I can do whatever I want and there's not going to be consequences. It's what I choose to do or not to do. Yes, Nez Prez, my head is huge, but that shouldn't stop you from hitting the like button and the subscribe button. Orange Sunrise. Sorry, Orange Sunrise. I gotta disagree with you. The Illuminati is not organized spiritually or any other way, nor are they an inside group. Thank you, Lon Sumdove, for being here. Yes, like and subscribe, or else nothing. Nothing will happen to you. But I would be happier if you hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you, Anima. Monday, please hit that like and subscribe button. I know there's nothing wrong with me. However, I've also learned that if you're going to be on stream, you're going to be on YouTube, you have to accept the fact that there are some people who are going to talk some poop about you and about how you look. That's the nature of being on YouTube. That's just human nature. For better or worse, that's the nature of YouTube and social media. It depends on the platform too. Instagram tends to be super positive. Twitter tends to be much more negative. It really just depends on the platform you're in. I'll take it. Brad Pitt's a handsome fella. Guxigo, Guxxigoo, says, what hey? What hey? You should hit the like and subscribe button. I do not believe in black magic. I'm very skeptical of the supernatural or the spiritual side of things. I tend to be very skeptical and doubtful of it. The shadow philosopher, my advice on hemorrhoids is going to be my advice on almost any other medical issue. Talk to your doctor. I'm going to take it seriously and say talk to your doctor. That's the most important thing. This is the Freemasonry channel, My Desire. So hit that like and subscribe button. And I hope everybody is doing well. I don't have any particular topics for 1 a.m. streams. It's just hanging out, waiting to see who joins. Gilbert, nice try. I'm not falling for that one. So, as a Freemason, I believe in a supreme being. All Freemasons are required to believe in a supreme being, at least to join the regular order. But I wouldn't describe it as God, at least as understood in like a Judeo-Christian sense. But I definitely believe in a supreme being or a higher power. Hello, Risha 1. Thank you for being here. Mr. Palad, I'm no fan of Trump myself, but that's just me personally. Interesting thing enough, in Freemasonry, we're not allowed to discuss religion or politics while in lodge. What am I wrong about, S or NBR love? Well, Freemasonry, we have men of all different faiths and beliefs, and people of all different faiths and beliefs. Christians, Muslim, Jewish. Freemasonry is a civic organization, indigenous, Hindu, Sikh. Because it's a civic organization, it must be respectful of all different faiths and beliefs. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a civic organization. It would be something very different. I am definitely not God, and I would not want to be God. Nor would I want to be the higher power in which I believe. Collins, no, I do not believe the earth is flat. Then what's the point The shadow philosopher. Then what's the point of what? I'm not sure to understand the question. Then what's the point of Freemasonry? Then what's the point of this channel? Um, yeah, Prentice says, I've sat in lodge with Christians, Muslims, indigenous persons, Sikh and Hindu, and I think honestly one of the greatest strengths of Freemasonry is the religious tolerance that is championed for almost 300 years. If you look at, or actually over 300 years, if you look at the Anderson Constitutions of 1723, you will see, in my opinion, in the section titled Of God and Religion, one of the greatest paragraphs and statements ever written regarding religious tolerance and respect for differing beliefs and different religious and cultural beliefs. Jason, you can worship whomever you so choose, and you can be whomever you so choose, including a cat, so long as you hit the like and subscribe button. Um, I've heard that, Alice South. Please hit like and subscribe. Hello, Afrith. Good to have you back once again. Took me a little while, but I got it now. I'm honored to have it. Hope you'll hit the like, and anybody watching this, hit the like button, do some hearts in honor of the super chat button. It took me about 3 years, 3.5 years to get it, maybe closer to 4. So, Juan, I've sat in lodge with many Catholic Freemasons. Now, Catholics may, join Freemasonry. They may choose to tell the church they've joined. They may choose not to tell the church. And if they do tell the church, and if the church enforces the rule, to my knowledge, the rule at present is they're not able to take communion. But it's not the same as saying they can't join. But I know many Catholics who are Freemasons who still attend church regularly, and they don't find any, or attend Mass, I guess it'd be called, who do not find any contradiction between their religious beliefs and the church, or in Freemasonry. What's the point of Freemasonry? Asks what's the name? Shadow Philosopher. The point of Freemasonry, Shadow Philosopher, is the same as the point of any other group or organization. It's to fulfill the human desire to belong to something bigger than yourself. Whether you achieve that desire through joining a knitting club, or joining a church, or joining a sports team, or joining Freemasonry, or joining an online community, or even joining a gang or like a negative activity. Ultimately, the purpose is at its core the same. It's the desire to belong to something bigger than yourself. That's why Freemasonry formed 300 years ago, or more than that, almost 400 years ago, when the first speculative Masons, who were not stonemasons, joined Masonic guilds. As dues-paying members, it was to belong to something greater than themselves, to be part of a club. It's belonging for the sake of belonging. In some sense, it's the most pure form of that. That's the point of it, right? Welcome back from the last stream. Because for a lot of different reasons, but Freemasonry was incredibly ubiquitous in the 1920s and the 1950s, primarily driven by veterans returning from World War I and World War II, who wanted to maintain the idea of fellowship and belonging, and so swelled the numbers of Freemasons by joining the ranks. And from there, it just kind of took off, and everybody joined. It's one of those things where the more it grows, the more it grows. Because, 2 people join a lodge, they know 10 people. Each of those 10, 5 people join. And it just grows and grows and grows, especially in small towns where, because there were so many Masons, it became like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Suddenly, the mayor wanted to join to help get reelected, or car salesman wanted to join to help his business. There became a lot of different incentives to join, or you just wanted to join to be part of it. Because as you see something grow in size and membership, you want to be part of it. Unfortunately, numbers have been dropping in North America, but that's, hopefully it'll come back. I'm not sure why you saw smoke coming from it. I hope there wasn't a fire. I hope you hit the like and subscribe button. Previously absurdly named, please hit the like and subscribe. My neck hurts. Well, it couldn't, but I hope you like and subscribe nonetheless. So World War I did not start because of Freemasons. Rather, it was veterans who fought in World War I, upon returning to North America, desired to maintain and continue kind of the bonds of brotherhood they felt overseas. There was a big number of veterans who joined Freemasonry in the 1920s upon returning from World War One in the late 1919s or the late 19s and early 20s. Um, Character is built upon morals. It is. It's also built upon repetitive practice. And I think if you dedicate yourself to Freemasonry, it can certainly help you live a more moral life. Certainly, certain types of morals that can help you grow, like temperance, justice, and fortitude. Um, Well, Orange Sunrise, there's nothing wrong with, there's nothing to be ashamed of if you are schizophrenic. A lot of people suffer from mental illness. Just talk to a doctor and make sure you do what the doctor says and take whatever medications you might require. Um, so there is an initiation ceremony or ritual. I'm not going to share the details of it, other than to say there is no part of any initiation ceremony. Took it myself, and I've seen dozens of them around the world. At no point in the ceremony is there anything that would be counter to your civic, religious, familial, or any other type of responsibility you have, nor anything that will make you feel or make anybody feel unsafe or is unsafe. A square compass would be wonderful, but it's square and compass. It's technically square and compasses, but I chose to use the term compass and not compasses to differentiate myself from Grand Lodges and to demonstrate that my thoughts are my own and do not reflect any particular Grand Lodge. Um, there is, and it's recognized in Ontario. I've sat with many Prince Hall Masons. They're all great people and great Masons and a very, very valuable part of the Masonic family. Egypt was definitely not built in a day, Orange Sunrise, neither was Rome. Um, yeah, I mean, I know that there's still a couple states that don't recognize Grand Lodges or don't recognize Prince Hall and vice versa. Hopefully that ends soon because Prince Hall, I think, is a very valuable part of the Masonic family. Um, I've never heard of that. I mean, I don't. Uh, we take obligations. There are different types of rituals, but I've never seen anybody destroy, like, take a pen or pencil and destroy some type of contract um, in a degree. I mean, you have to sign certain things, um, right? That's part of joining. You have to sign application form. You have to sign the bylaws. You have to sign different items, um, whether it be the application form, the bylaws. You get different things to sign, but that's not really part of the ceremony per se. Um, yeah, I don't remember which one's Prentice Davis. I used to know. I think Mississippi might be one, but I might be mistaken. Don't quote me on that. I can't think off the top of my head. Hobor, have we infiltrated the government? We have not, nor do we want to. Our goal is not to infiltrate anything. That's not what Freemasonry is about. We couldn't infiltrate governments anyways, because that's not how Freemasonry is set up, right? We don't have a single governing body that can send Masons out to infiltrate anything. Rather, we are jurisdictional. Um, yeah, I thought Mississippi was one. Um, But no, despite the fact that some people think we're out there trying to infiltrate governments, I assure you we're not. Freemasonry, I mean, I do wish in some ways I wish there were more Masons in government because I believe Masonic principles and philosophies make for good governance, certainly the democratic ideals therein. Having said that, um, that's not to say infiltrate, that's just to say I wish more Masons would run for government and talk about the ways Freemasonry has influenced their decision making processes. But that's just my desire. You don't see it happening very much. Who is Potato Head Man on Toy Story? Joe's 83. So what's up with all the Freemason conspiracy theories? Hello, Ruby. There's a lot of I mean, when you say what's up with it, there's a ton of different reasons for it. Part of it is just social media encourages conspiratorial thinking. And because there's always been certain conspiracies around Freemasons, they kind of got a new life on social media. It's easier for them to spread. Because there's private elements to Freemasonry, a lot of people have this idea that if they don't know something and they're not able to find out, it's something nefarious, and that encourages conspiratorial thinking. And ne'er-do-wells throughout history, or in some cases absolute monsters throughout history, have used Freemasonry as a scapegoat, tying it in with Judaism as they did in Germany, or tying it in with anti-government forces as they did in Russia, or Soviet Union, because it gives them a scapegoat on which they can cast aside issues facing the world or issues facing their government. Like Hitler did that with the Masons, right? He used them as a boogeyman, and then positioned himself as one such person who could, stand up to the Freemason Jewish conspiracy nonsense. And I also do believe that for a lot of people, they fall into conspiracy about Freemasons or anything else because their life may not be going so well. And instead of dealing with the fact that their life is not going so well, they choose to focus on, creating a boogeyman on which they can, cast all their problems in world, or focus on something else. Because I've known people who fall deep into conspiracy theory, and sometimes it's conspiracies against Masons, sometimes it's conspiracies against whomever else, or other groups, or government, or vaccines, or blah, blah, blah. Usually they have some pretty significant mental health issues or other issues in their life. And instead of dealing with those, they would rather just go on Twitter and write missives about how much they hate the Freemasons. Um, uh, well, Freemasonry isn't anti-Semitic, nor is it, I guess, Semitic. I mean, Freemasonry, it originated in are you saying the conspiracies against Freemasonry? Yeah, a lot of those conspiracies against Freemasonry are very anti-Semitic. Um, right, Freemasonry welcomes men of all faiths, including ethnicities as well. We have many Jewish members. I'm actually a member of a lodge in Israel myself. So, um, Mr. Black, I'm not sure what you are referring to when it comes to filter, but I hope you hit the like and subscribe button. Well, I mean, it depends what the meeting is, Efreet. If it comes to opening and closing of a lodge, there's a standard ritual. And that's important because it maintains a continuity between past, present, and future generations of Freemasons. If we all do the same thing to start and finish, it helps the lodge grow and do better. Um, Sorry, Swagger. Someone's been reading way too much Albert Pike. Freemasonry is not Luciferian. Um, I don't know. I mean, I don't think so. Freemasonry was banned in the Soviet Union, so I can't imagine he was. He could have been, because he was pretty hostile towards Freemasonry, to my knowledge. Um, Suzum, this guy is Cameron Adamson, and he is talking about Freemasonry. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Um, so he was pretty anti-Freemason to my knowledge. I'd be surprised if he was. Not saying it's impossible, just saying I find it highly unlikely. Um, Juan Gonzalez, what do you gain from being a Freemason? So everybody gains different things by being a Freemason. One thing I gain, and this is unique to me, is I felt it brought me closer to my grandfather. So my grandfather on my dad's side passed away before I was born. I never got to meet him, but he was a Freemason. And so me joining made me feel closer to him. I know others have gained a social safety net and gained support when they needed it, financial or otherwise. Some gained more self-confidence to speak in public. Some gained, some gained certain administrative skills. Some gained new friends. I think what every Freemason gains ultimately, though, is the opportunity to help build a better world through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. My um, my traveling Jamie and Michael Moss is going very well. In fact, I just got back from beautiful Bogota, Colombia through Chicago. It was an incredible trip. Bogota is beautiful. Chicago was great. It was a blast. Well, R. Kelly B1, I don't have legs, so I can't do that. Please hit the like and subscribe button, though. Yes, I know my head is huge. Please hit like and subscribe. Do you have the same beliefs? So every Mason has his own beliefs off road. To be a Freemason, you must believe in a supreme being. However, the nature of that supreme being is up to you. So we have Masons of all different faiths and beliefs and backgrounds, as well as all different political beliefs. Um, Freemasonry is not a political nor religious organization, which means men are, I guess not encouraged is the term, but just kind of it's expected that men will come to their own political, religious, or other types of beliefs. And so you can have those beliefs, but you cannot infringe on another Mason's beliefs or his right to have his beliefs. Yes, I have no legs. I was born missing my legs. I'm in a wheelchair. Hello, Tender. Thank you for being here. Sorry, 8GHT. As someone who's been to a lot of Masonic meetings around the world, as well as ceremonies and rituals, never seen Baal or Moloch mentioned in any circumstances. I was born this way, so nothing happened. This is just how I was born. I don't mind, though. Honestly, if I could go back in time and have legs, I would say no, because I like who I am and I like the way I am. So, I mean, actually, I did a JOS-A3. I did a podcast episode about this in England, certainly, as well as, to my knowledge, everywhere in Freemasonry. There's no policy against, sexual orientation. I've known many queer or gay Freemasons. I've interviewed some of my podcast. The United Grand Lodge of England actually marched in the Pride Parade a few years ago. So yeah, you can be gay or straight, whatever it is, and join a lodge in the United Grand Lodge of England, as well as you can be trans. So yeah, there is no it. If you're concerned about joining a lodge is your sexual orientation, that should not be your concern. Certainly not in UGLE, which has a very good policy on those things. And I did a podcast about it. How do I feel about skull and crossbones? Well, I think I'm referring to the Skull and Bones, which is a fraternity out of Yale. I don't know much about them, other than I find it annoying that people always compare them or connect them to Freemasonry. They're different organizations and different groups. You should. There's nothing wrong with that. Yes, I know it looked like a talking thumb, hoofy, but you can still hit like and subscribe. Yeah, if you type into YouTube Square and Compass Pride, you should find the episode I did with the brother. Let me see if I can find the information now. So it's episode 163 from 2024, Freemasonry and Pride Month. India, Jesus loves everyone. Well, there are many Christian Freemasons. I'm sure they would agree with you. And thank you for being here. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Well, thank you for liking and subscribing, Goofy. Okay, I'm 18th degree. I'm Scottish Rite as well. Though it's weird, Godzilla, that your dad would describe himself as, or your grandfather would describe himself as 18th degree. Like when most people ask, what I'll just explain is I'm, third degree. That's what matters. Some will talk about being a 33rd. 18th degree is a weird degree to mention unless you're specifically asked. 18th degree, well, within Freemasonry, you have your degree structure. You have your first 3 degrees, which are the most important. The 3rd degree, in fact, is the degree that matters the most. Entered Apprentice, Fellow Craft, Master Mason. After that, you can join different appendant bodies or rites, like Scottish Rite or York Rite. If you join Scottish Rite, you can, get additional degrees to learn more about Freemasonry, up to the 18th degree. Um, or sorry, up to the 32nd degree, and then you can receive the honorific of the 33rd degree. So I'm 18th degree, which means I'm a member of Scottish Rite. It's just a Masonic title, is the way you think about it. Kind of like levels up. That's not a bad way to think about it, Swagger. Um, well, no, I'm 18th degree, Swagger, but third degree is the degree that matters the most. I don't claim to be an expert. I claim to be an expert on my own experiences and my own life and my own Masonic experiences. I was there for all of it. And at least I can talk about my experiences therein and, why I think Freemasonry is a force for good in the world and promote the ways Freemasonry was and is relevant to the communities in which it is located. Um, if you ain't I have no idea what that means, but please hit like and subscribe. Um, well, cornerstones in Freemasonry are obviously very important symbolically, right? They're always very important just in buildings in general, kind of being the first stone that you lay down for the workman. By the way, I hope everybody does not forget about what I have coming up soon. Today, December 17th at 1 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be doing a abridged live stream before I start my Salvation Army kettlebell ringers, and then I'm going to do a live stream of me doing the bells, the Salvation Army kettlebell around 2 p.m. on my personal YouTube channel, youtube.com/Cameron Adamson. This is my channel about Freemasonry. My other channel is about other things that I find of interest. On Saturday, the 20th, I'm probably going to be doing a live stream of me getting a Masonic tattoo. And then on the 21st, I start my 24-hour live stream, which is going to go from the 2 p.m. on the 21st to 2 p.m. on the 22nd. I am not stealing Freemason's valor because I'm a Freemason and proud of it. I mean, in some ways, you could argue that. I wouldn't call them commies unless you think every union is communist. Certainly, Freemasons evolved from stone masonry guilds in the 14th and 15th centuries, which were a type of union. So if you could argue that. I mean, we evolved from unions in some ways, from craftsmen and trade unions. Although even that expression, a union or a guild, was a very different thing in the 15th and 16th centuries than you would think about it today. Kamala Harris is not a Freemason, whiz droid. Someone's been spending too much time checking out conspiracy theories online. Henrik, well, I don't promote Freemasons per se. Rather, I promote the ways Freemasonry was relevant to the communities in which it's located. And the reason I do that is because I love Freemasonry. And I want to create this channel to try to turn my passion for Freemasonry into a profession by, monetizing this channel, monetizing social media content, and showing it is possible to earn a living by talking about and promoting what you love about Freemasonry, or just talking about Freemasonry. I don't know what that means, Hoofy, but probably not, because it sounds gross. Is it, well, I mean, 18th degree is just a degree in the Scottish Rite. So it's just a Scottish Rite degree. It's one I am of and proud of it. Well, off-road, government may have some Masons in it. It's not impossible. I've known in my Masonic career since 2007, two Masons who were involved in government. Both were at the city council level. And that's it. It sounds pretty gross to me, whatever that word is. It sounds suspicious. Okay, Hoofy, no, Freemasonry is not about that at all. It's not what Freemasonry is about. I think you might be trying to troll a little bit. So, as a rule, I try not to ban people from the channel. However, or I try not to put people in timeout. I almost never ban. I try to put people in timeout, but There's no need for some trolling stuff. Hello from Iran. Thank you for being here. Um, Good to have somebody from Iran. Crybaby. I mean, you know, thank you for calling me an old man. Guess I look dignified. What is Freemasonry about? What is Freemasonry about? And it's not demonic. That's not what it's about. Honestly, Freemasonry, so to a certain extent, every Mason decides that for himself. For me, Freemasonry is about family. Having Masonic family members, being a Mason makes me feel close to them. To me, I always say what Freemasonry is about ultimately is the belief that the world can be made better through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. But ultimately, Freemasonry is about the same thing any group, organization, or club is about. It's about fulfilling the human desire to belong to something bigger than oneself or greater than oneself. Some find that through religion, some find it through knitting clubs, some find it through sport. I find it through Freemasonry. Um, no, it is not, Envy Our Love. Freemasonry is not demonic. It's a social and civic club. Or it's an umbrella term that refers to a lot of different social and civic clubs. Um, I mean, Freemasons definitely, if you are a Freemason, it can act as a social safety net to help brothers in times of difficulty or family members of brothers in times of difficulty, though that charity is often and should be extended to the community at large and builds up the same. Um, Well, it's not about secrecy. There's private elements to it. There are symbols to Freemasonry. Um, and there's a brotherhood. It's interesting, Henry, I can't pronounce your name. Henry, I'm just going to call you 6042. You're not completely wrong. Whether you're talking about a criminal organization like a gang, or a civic group like a Freemasons Lodge, or you're talking about a knitting club for that matter, at the end of the day, it's all at its core fulfilling the same desire, which is the desire for belonging and being part of something. That's what human beings want. The question is, how is that desire being channeled? Is it being channeled into positive pursuits as Freemasonry channels it? Or is it being channeled into negative or criminal pursuits like a gang would? If it's the latter, then it's a negative. If it's the former, then it's a positive. Um, that's the thing you need to keep in mind, right? The innate desire, which encourages people to form groups, that's the same across the board. But not every group channels that desire into a positive pursuit. Um, well, I don't know how to show my source code, Orange Sunrise. You're just gonna have to trust that I'm not a Freemason. Or sorry, not a Freemason, not AI. I am a Freemason. I'm not artificial intelligence, Orange Sunrise. And if you think I am artificial intelligence, then so be it. Um, how would I ever prove otherwise? Um, Apple Howell, I promise you I am a Freemason. However, you're welcome to disagree if you so believe. Um, Rambo, I'm not going to do that either. Hoofy, maybe. Questions are coming in quick. If I want to become a Freemason, do I need to be initiated or know someone who is or something? Well, if you want to be a Freemason, what they always say is to be one, ask one. And so you've taken that first step by talking to me. What you need to do is contact your local Masonic lodge or as local, as is. If there's a Masonic lodge in your town that's close to you, great. If there's one that's a little bit further away, you may have to contact them. And you just express your interest in joining. You don't need to know anybody beforehand, as certainly not to make that first contact. All you just get in touch with them. You explain your interest, why you are interested in joining. At the start, don't worry so much about joining or being a Mason. Just get to know the brothers of the lodge. Let them get to know you, and you kind of proceed from there. Eventually, you'll need to, complete an application and talk about getting sponsors, but that comes later. At the start, it's just making that first contact and expressing your interest in joining and why you're interested in joining. Um, um, I'm in rural Queensland where there's no town for 700 kilometers. I mean, if you go to Google and type in Australian Freemasonry, hopefully you'll be able to find something there. I believe Queensland has some Masonic lodges. Um, so I don't believe American Indian that's ever been a rule, at least certainly not that I've ever heard of. Because otherwise, how could it start, right? If you need to have a bloodline connection, how could it ever begin? I have known many Masons since 2007 who were the first of their family to join Freemasonry. I've known many who have family connections. In my lodge, I'd say it's probably 50-50. Actually, probably closer more to 60-40. 60 have some type of family connection, 40 don't. Um, but, it depends. But I've never heard of that being a rule. And certainly since I became a Mason, it's never been a rule that I've ever, heard of or seen. Um, So the idea of being high status in the community, I've known Masons who are janitors, I've known Masons who are lawyers, and everywhere in between. There are some lodges who may, for whatever reason, I wouldn't support this, but try to not even advertise per se, but they'll set their dues structures, like the amount of money it takes to, yearly dues, so high it may start to attract, higher wage earners, something like that, or people who are, earning more money. So it may be kind of high status by default if it's really expensive in the area, but it shouldn't be. The goal of Freemasons shouldn't be to, have high class members. It should be to just have good people. And that's the end of it. Um, Johnny Lemon, I don't talk about the private qualities of, or the private elements of the Masonic lodge experience. If you want to learn that, you got to join Freemasonry. Um, Illuminati don't really exist, at least not in any organized fashion, despite what people think. They popped up in 1777. A gentleman by the name of Adam Weishaupt started it. It's a separate organization that really doesn't exist in an organized manner, at least in my opinion. Not in the way Freemasonry does, that's for sure. Um, so Maxi Yuri, that's what I have to say to that. Why did I choose to be a Freemason? Well, I chose to be a Freemason, Henry, because my dad was a Freemason. I saw the good it did in the world, and I always assumed I would join. Again, I know many people who joined who have no family connections to Freemasonry. I also know many people who, their dad was a Freemason and they chose not to join, which is fine as well. Um, in either circumstance, but both cases are fine. So it's not a necessity one way or the other. But for me, I kind of grew up around it. I went to Christmas parties at the lodge with my dad, whatever it might be. And I always assumed I would join sooner or later for that reason. Um, yeah, Prentice, see you next time. I mean, honestly, Marty, yeah, a Rotary Club is not too far off. They're both civic organizations and civic groups. Is it true Masonic practices? Well, not really, old Johnny Lemon. Freemasonry, it really was founded I mean, at the earliest around 1634. 1717 is when the first Grand Lodge started. What they date back to is stone masonry. Now, when Freemasons were developing their ceremonies and their rituals for degrees to advance people, they did create ceremonies and rituals, and they did, mention or bring in, for example, King Solomon as a metaphorical figure. Certainly King Solomon's temple, because it was such an important um, example of stone masonry. They, mentioned King Solomon's temple a lot, but that was them, a few, what would be millennia after the fact, looking back for symbols and individuals that they could use when developing ritual to convey moral lessons. So it's not as though it was King Solomon and then all the way through there was an unbroken chain of Freemasonry. There was King Solomon, then 1,000 years later or so, Freemasonry forms, or 2,000 or 3,000 years later, Freemasonry develops, and then it looks back to historical figures to create, to add to ceremonies and ritual. Are women allowed to join Freemasonry? So there are many examples of women Freemasons. There's the Order of Women Freemasons, which actually has existed in the United Kingdom for longer than women have had the right to vote, actually. It's over 100 years old. There's also co-masonry in a lot of different branches. There's also Eastern Star, which is an organization in regular masonry for men and women. Um, Yeah, well, let me know what part I'm missing, American Indian kid. Having said that, I will be going to sleep soon because it's 2 a.m. I do these streams for about 1 hour. To my knowledge, Charlie Kirk was not a Freemason. I saw an interview he did with somebody where he was asked what he thought of Freemasonry, and he said he didn't know much about it, but he kept an open mind. So, to my knowledge, he was not a Freemason. Um, I've also been seeing a bunch of weird conspiracy theories online claiming his wife was a Freemason, which I don't get where they're getting that from either, but that sounds crazy to me as well. And Cobart, we do not torture anyone, babies or otherwise, for anything. Freemasonry is not about torturing anyone. So someone's been looking at way too many conspiracy theory videos online. Um, and also, we do not sacrifice our souls to the devil, nor do we sacrifice our souls to anyone. Within Freemasonry, the one thing you do sacrifice is your time, or you should be willing to sacrifice your time to attend Masonic Lodge meetings and events. But that's it. Beyond that, we're not sacrificing anything. Um, Again, other than time, which is a meaningful thing. You could argue time is the most valuable thing we own. So to sacrifice our time, we should be grateful for that and for any Mason who is willing to sacrifice their time. What is the point of Freemasonry? The point of Freemasonry is so I can give you two answers to that. I can give you my point to Freemasonry, um, which is that the world can be made better through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. But I would say ultimately, at its core, the point of Freemasonry is the same as the point of any other group or organization, is to fulfill the human desire to belong to something better than oneself. Yes, well, Johnny Depp, 6481, you're smart. You're building stuff, you're building stuff out of stone. You should be getting paid for it. Um, do Masons, nice try, enjoyer. Please hit like and subscribe. So, to be a Freemason, old Johnny Lemon, you must believe in a supreme being. You can use the term higher power if you'd like. I would use the term supreme being. You don't have to specify what it is. You can, and you may choose to, but you don't have to specify it per se. That's between you and your higher power, your supreme being. I've known Masons who are, again, Christian, both Catholic and Protestant, Jewish, Muslim, indigenous, spiritual like me. There are many different supreme beings represented in a Masonic lodge because Freemasonry promotes, amongst other things, religious tolerance, which is one of my favorite things about it. HEJE3427. Do Freemasons support Black Lives Matter? You would have to ask every Freemason. There's about 850,000 Masons in the States. Each one will have his own opinion about Black Lives Matter. Freemasons don't discuss politics in lodge, and there is no requirement that Freemasons have any particular political belief. I can tell you as a general rule, I would support Black Lives Matter. Certainly, if nothing else, the sentiment behind it. Minotaur, but that's me personally. Every Freemason has his own views on it, as they should. Freemasonry is not a political ideology, nor is it a religious one. Yes, Minotaur. Well, I mean, I stopped streaming for a while. Now I came back on. I will be streaming for 24 hours, though, on December 21st through to December 22nd. My last 24-hour stream of 2025. I mean, I've never met a satanic Freemason. I've told this story before. I had one person call me and say he wanted to join Freemasonry and explain that he was satanic. Um, and after talking to him and telling him what Freemasonry was, he decided he did not want to join because, in his mind, Freemasonry and Satanism were opposed in their beliefs. So it's one of those things where maybe it's possible, but I don't believe it would ever actually happen because it seems that the ideals of the two organizations are diametrically opposed. Um, I just want to be the best version of a Freemason I can be, Mystic Mountain. So I'm just trying to be the best third degree Master Mason and 18th degree Scottish Rite Mason I can be. Old Johnny Lemon, there's a couple different significances to it, but if you're, York, Wright, or Preston Webb, usually the black and white tiled floor represents the dichotomy between good and evil and trying to navigate that path and focus on end up on the side of good as much as you can. Well, beeswax, um, with the symbol in your avatar, it does not describe me. It does not describe me. It does not shock me that you would describe yourself as being hating everyone and everything. Um, it seems to me that picture represents hatred. I would suggest you may try not to be try to focus more on love and acceptance and tolerance and kindness. Um, did you like The Undertaker? One of the greats. My favorite wrestler of all time is John Cena. I think he's the GOAT, but Undertaker's definitely pretty incredible. Um, Well, so I think the way he's using it, it's meant to reference um, Hitler and Nazis, and I would say Hitler was a monstrous psychopath, as were the Nazis. I do understand though the swastika historically, it's certainly in Eastern philosophy, was actually a very different symbol, and the Nazi Party, um, stole it for their own purposes. Um, Well, Vi Victa, you can think whatever you want, but you are incorrect. And there are no marriage rituals within Freemasonry, child or otherwise. You are just wrong. Okay, I mean, old Johnny, there are a lot of Masonic lodges in Ohio. I've actually been to a few. Great group of people, great group of guys, great Masons in Ohio. Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in joining, just contact a lodge, express your interest, explain why you're interested in joining, and you go from there. And if you do decide to make contact, I wish you the best of luck in your Masonic career and Masonic journey. Um, Babel memes, it's a pretty good song. What is the importance of the hive? I assume you're talking about the beehive. I mean, it's interesting. The beehive isn't really an important symbol in Freemasonry in emulation ritual, which is what comes from the Grand Lodge of England. It is more important in Preston Webb ritual or York Rite ritual, which you see a lot in the States. I mean, the beehive, but it's not a particularly Masonic symbol per se. The idea of the beehive is actually a very common symbol throughout history, tends to represent things like industry and cooperation, and somewhat unity, but cooperation specifically. But that's not unique to Freemasonry. You see the beehive and the idea of bees as being a symbol of industriousness and unity popping up in a lot of different cultures and organizations and groups. Um, Beeswax, try to hate less things. Hatred is not cool. It's not going to do you any help or any good. Um, Scottish Rite doesn't equal Albert Pike. There's the northern jurisdiction. There's a lot of parts of Scottish Rite that are not Albert Pike. Having said that, I'm not a huge fan of Albert Pike myself. I think he got a lot of stuff right, but he got a lot of stuff wrong. And he was not Jewish, that's for sure. At least not to my knowledge. He was, from Arkansas. He was a Confederate soldier. Um, Miss McQueen's Muse, I would say hating things is almost never valid. It doesn't do a lot of good. at least in my experience. I can understand there can be a certain nobility to hating something, especially if it's wronged you, but ultimately I've not found it to be a very fulfilling, um, not to be a particularly fulfilling way to approach things. Even if it's somebody like Vi Victe, who I find very challenging for a lot of different reasons, I'm not going to hate him. I may put him in timeout, but I'm not going to hate him. If for no other reason, then why spend the mental energy therein? Um, that's true, Minotaur. At least that's what I heard to be the case. Um, well, Manly P. Hall, the thing to keep in mind about Manly P. Hall is a lot of the stuff he wrote at a time when he wasn't a Mason. He became a Mason after he wrote some of his most famous works. So just keep that in mind. God bless Square Comes Promotions. Thank you, Oblivious. I appreciate that. Um, I would agree with that as well, Minotaur. Yes, we do got some of those in the chat. It's one of those situations where I, I don't ban them as a rule because obviously I think that they represent a sickness and a sadness and I don't even know what the term to use, kind of a monstrous ideology. But if I kick them out of the chat, they're just going to go somewhere else and spread their nonsense there. If they're here, at least I can try to explain to them why they're incorrect. And also all the ways that Freemasonry, I believe, represents an antidote or is the antithesis to their ideology. Um, Nazis are occult. Nazis were obsessed with the occult famously. And not just the occult in the terms of because occult means hidden. In theory, there's nothing inherently spiritual or skeptical or like mystical about the term occult. Occult just means anything hidden. My bank account would be occult information, right? But Nazis were famously attracted to black magic and mysticism, kind of occult. Um, you know, But yeah, I guess I'll go on record once again as saying the Nazis were particularly, not exclusively, but a particularly monstrous and horrendous ideology. Um, Welcome, Scott Green from New Zealand. A lot of Masons in New Zealand, which I'd love to visit some of them there. I think it'd be really, really cool. Actually, beeswax, I do like fire as well. I love camping and I love fires when you're camping. Roasting marshmallows, all that good jazz. Um, Babel, I can speak for myself exclusively. I don't believe in the death penalty. I don't believe in death sentences. Life sentences I'm a bit more comfortable with, but I don't believe in the death penalty. But that's me. Every Freemason will have his own opinion. I have not beeswax, and I think I'd have to put you in timeout because I'm not a big fan of supporting animal cruelty. So let's just get rid of you there for a second. What rite takes longer to complete? It depends on the jurisdiction you're in because different jurisdictions have different ways of doing it. Like there's some places where it's the Scottish Rite will, they'll do the entire degree structure from the fourth degree through to the 32nd degree in a weekend. And others, like in Canada, in Ontario, it can take about a year to go through it all. And York Rite kind of the same. So it really is not about the rite, it's about where you're located. Jay, who did 9/11? Al-Qaeda did 9/11. I am not familiar with Caparot. Caparot? Do you know anything about Lithuanian Freemasons? I do not. I wish I knew more about Lithuania and with Lithuanian Freemasons, but it's not something I know anything about. Well, Mystic Mountain, let's not have any conspiracy theorists. Well, they have different degrees. If I recall correctly, York Rite has less degrees than Scottish Rite, but that doesn't always mean it'll take less time. It depends on how it's scheduled, right? Things can be scheduled in such a way as to take longer or shorter. Because you're not doing it like day after day. It's not just a matter of how many degrees there are. It's how it's scheduled, how it's organized, what is a mandatory degree versus not a mandatory degree, all that other type of stuff. Um, I do not. I'm incredibly babble memes. I'm incredibly skeptical of conspiracy theories. I think they're almost brain rot in some ways. And I've never heard of any Masonic lodges summoning interdimensional entities. We in Freemasonry are not trying to summon anything unless summon the pizza guy to get there with the after lodge refreshment. Gav 144, the benefits that one has for being a Freemason, that's a personal kind of question because every Mason will have different benefits. For me, for example, one of the benefits I have for being a Freemason is it makes me feel closer to my grandfather. But I get that benefit because my grandfather was a Freemason. A lot of Masons get the benefit of making friends they would not have made otherwise, getting a social safety net or support system. A lot develop more self-confidence and better public speaking skills. A lot develop better memorization skills. There's a lot of different reasons and ways that people can learn and grow in Freemasonry and get benefits therein. Am I trans? Would it matter if I was? No, Sultan. Um, I don't answer those type of questions about my sexual orientation or my religion because Freemasonry welcomes men of all different faiths and beliefs and religions and orientations and part of the LGBT community, etc., etc. Um, why is there a lodge in most major towns? And why is almost every year's president? So you got baited, fool. I don't know you. Um, I think that's how you pronounce it. There's a lot of incorrect premises to your question. First, not every president has been a Freemason. 14 or 15 presidents have been Freemasons. So that's not every, that's less than half. There's a Masonic lodge in every town because Freemasonry in the 1920s and the 50s, 1950s was incredibly popular. It was incredibly popular for a lot of different reasons, but it became incredibly popular, and as it became incredibly popular, more and more men joined, and more lodges formed in more and more towns and cities. Um, as you know, the Masonic numbers have been dropping since 1959. The consequences of that have been you see less Masonic lodges in less towns and cities. But it was so ubiquitous for a time that you did see it pop up everywhere. Some effing dude, what is the G? I'm not going to tell you what the G is. If you want to learn what the G stands for, you got to join. Um, yes, I'm not saying any secrets. Um, Not Sultan's calling me a freak, so be it. And calling me a Jew, would it matter if I was or wasn't? I'm proud to be a member of Masonic Lodge in Israel, I can tell you that. Thoughts on Scientology? No thoughts on Scientology. I don't know anything about it. To my understanding, they believe in a supreme being. And because they believe in a supreme being, they could join Freemasonry. I don't see why not. But I don't know anything about Scientology. I don't know anything about the Moorish. I don't know what that is. Thank you, Minotaur. Yes, the G stands for G. How about that? Um, you think I'm Mossad? You got baited? You think I'm some type of secret agent? I guess I'm pretty popular then in that case. Or I must be pretty cool. I must look like James Bond. Or I'm a witch? I don't know anything about gematria other than it's a type of numerology to my knowledge. But it's not something I know anything about. Well, So, Gabby, it's not about being. Oh, yeah, William is right. Clubs in general, not just Freemasons, but the Elks, the Moose, the Rotary, um, PTA churches. It was very common for men to want to join groups and to be part of groups. In fact, there's even a derisive term for like a community member who would join, every group in the town. They were called Barry the Joiner. Um, which was a derisive term for the guy who would be like on his car, he'd have a sticker for like the Masons, the Elks, the Moose. Bowling Alone talked about this really well and the decline in civic engagement amongst men in the 1990s moving forward to the present time. So, Hoofy, there are, for example, for women, there is the Order of Women Freemasons, which has existed in England for over 100 years. There's also co-Freemasonry. There's also Eastern Star. When it comes to girls or boys, the younger people, there are Masonic youth groups, particularly the Rainbow, Order of Rainbow, and Demolay. Um, yes, LOL Bird, I got a big forehead. Please hit like and subscribe. What does the compass signify? Well, the compasses are a Masonic tool, right? We in Freemasonry borrowed many tools for our symbols. So the square and compasses, stonemasons would use those tools when, working with stone to create structures, be that walls, houses, basically to shape stone. We apply them to ourselves in a moral sense. Um, and so it helps to, we use the tools in a metaphorical sense on ourselves to help build us into better people and then to build the community as well. Job's daughters as well, and daughters of the Nile as well. Yeah, so there's different Masonic youth groups. Um, um, Vi, it seems to me that you're probably not living a very good life. I think you might want to talk to someone because you seem like an incredibly sad and lonely and challenging person. I suspect you're living a pretty rough life. I hope you find some peace and happiness. 47. The number of the problem of Euclid is the 47th problem of Euclid. Um, what is the meaning of the all-seeing eye? Well, the all-seeing eye, that's not a particularly Masonic, um, that's not a particularly Masonic symbol. I mean, the Freemasons adopted it, but the all-seeing eye or the eye of providence has been around since, oh my gosh, hundreds of years. Um, Thousands, really. It goes back to ancient Egypt. Basically, what it's always meant in some form or another is the idea of a supreme being, a great architect, a higher power, pick your term, is always kind of watching us. Even fate, you could argue, is always trying to watch, is always trying to, watch us. And we have a responsibility to act in such a manner as though we understand that we are being watched by the all seeing eye. Um, well, you're definitely racist, Vi Victai. I would hope that again, I hope that you would find some peace because I don't think you're a very happy person. Um, he is definitely not being constructive. That is true. I don't hate everybody. I love all people. Um, well, there is no single grand architect, Gavi. All right. Um, right? When it comes to the idea of a grand architect, every Mason will be viewing the grand architect in his own mind. So, for a Christian who is a Freemason, when they hear the term grand architect, they'll likely be thinking of Jesus, right? Or, the God as represented through the Trinity. If it's a Muslim person, they'll be thinking of Allah. If it's an indigenous person, they may be thinking of nature. Um, Hindu, Sikh. there is no single great architect. Rather, it is whatever their belief is. Um, Somebody asked me, like, how do you solve? Well, the 47th problem of Euclid, right? It's the learning from and of Pythagoras, the great Pythagoras. So it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared, 3, 4, 5. Which to me, in some ways, is how I'd view my higher power, right? As the rational expression of the universe through geometry. Um, Thoughts on Adam Weishaupt? Not a fan. He was a pain in the butt, basically, because he decided to start the Illuminati in 1777 because he did not like Freemasonry, and as a consequence of that, forever and since we're always linked with the Illuminati, even though they're separate organizations. Um, that the latter has not really been anything in existence for almost 100 years. What are my thoughts on Rosicrucianism? I have no issue with Rosicrucianism. They actually have contributed a lot to Freemasonry over the years. Or you could argue Freemasonry, adopted a lot from Rosicrucianism. Either way you want to see it. I'm a member of the Rose-Croix Scottish Rite, so certainly I have no issues with Rosicrucianism. Um, um, Louis Louise Cobra says F Freemasonry. Well, there you go. I am the one degree that matters, which is a third degree Master Mason. I'm also 18th degree Scottish Rite. A lot of people get concerned about the idea of degrees. We know what matters most is being a third degree Master Mason. Old Johnny, I've heard of Luciferian Freemasons. I never met one. But Luciferianism is an interesting spiritual idea. To my understanding, the belief in it is that Lucifer that we see, the Lucifer that's mentioned as the snake in the Garden of Eden is not equivalent to Satan, the fallen angel. So Luciferians and Satanists are not the same thing to my knowledge. Having said that, I've never met a Luciferian Freemason. Thank you, William Barry. And hit the like and subscribe button. I'll tell you what the first step is to be a Freemason off-road. Contact a local Masonic lodge and speak to them and ask them or express to them your interest in joining Freemasonry and why you want to join. Gavi, what I would say to them is you need to look at Freemasonry in its entirety and in its whole. It's not enough to look at a single ritual or a single degree and gain, and to make judgments based on that. Because that's not how Freemasonry works, right? Freemasonry is the entirety of it. It's every degree. It's also York Rite. It's also the Shrine. It's also the Masonic Charitable Foundation. It's also Rainbow. It's also Demolay. It's co-masonry. It's Order of Women Freemasons. To say that any one degree speaks for the entirety of Freemasonry is not. First of all, it's not fair to Freemasonry, and it's not an accurate representation of what Freemasonry does. Here's the way you need to think about it. Where is it? So here's the way you need to think about it, Gavi. If the Scottish Rite ceased to exist, Freemasonry would still exist because Freemasonry does not require the Scottish Rite. However, if Freemasonry ceased to exist, then Scottish Rite would cease to exist as well, if that makes any sense, right? Scottish Rite does not speak for Freemasonry. Freemasonry is the first 3 degrees. That is the foundation on which everything else rests. That's what matters. If that goes away, Scottish Rite would go away as well. So that's my response to that. And I'm definitely not an undercover Mossad agent. Of course, if I was an undercover Mossad agent, I guess that's what I would say. Um, Trump is not a Freemason, Blue B. At least to my knowledge, he's not. I've never seen any evidence that he is. By the way, Blue B, please hit like and subscribe. Swagger, please hit like and subscribe as well. I mean, I guess, old Johnny, when you say, is it against God to join? What I would say is, I mean, old Johnny, you will have to decide that for yourself based on your religious beliefs. I can't tell you what, your God does or does not approve. I can tell you I've known men of all different faiths, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Catholic, Protestant, Indigenous, Sikh, all of whom have joined Freemasonry and did not consider it to be against their religious beliefs or against their deity or against God. Um, but I guess you have to make that decision and come to that conclusion on your own based on your interpretation and your understanding of your religious beliefs. Because I can't speak to what you believe in a religious context. I would say I've never seen anything that would indicate it's against God, at least as I understand, you know, certainly the typical religion, quote unquote, or typical belief in God. Um, York Rite does not refer to York in England, to my knowledge. Um, Actually, hold on one second. York Rite Freemasonry. Let me double check something, because actually, yeah, it actually does come City of York. Sorry about that. I got it mixed up. I'm very tired. It's 2 in the morning, 2:20 in the morning. It comes from the City of York. Um, so I hope that answered your question. Um, where's my ring? My ring is over that way. I'm not going to get it now because I'm going to go to sleep soon. Um, Not at 2:20 in the morning, Vivek. Don't you ever sleep? Um, I mean, I don't know anything about the Egyptian god Tooth. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I know a little bit about Egyptian mysticism and Egyptian gods. I think all these things build on one another in some ways. Um, whether it be Egyptian mythology to Chinese mythology, even though they are from different civilizations at different times, through to modern religion understanding, I think they all build upon one another. Thoth, never. I mean, I think I've heard the name Thoth, but I can't speak to it specifically. Um, I do not know what phenotype means, but please hit like and subscribe, Ulysses. The Batman, please hit like and subscribe as well. I would greatly appreciate it. Um, why would I wear my rings at all time, Batman 559? First of all, I'm in a wheelchair. So wearing my ring is a pain in the butt because when I would wear my ring, it would always scratch against my wheels, and you'd have this weird, like, it'd always scratch up the wheels, or the wheels would scratch up the ring. Um, I do not know what Judeo-Masonic theory is. I mean, Freemasonry borrowed from Judaism, but also borrowed from Christianity, Stoic philosophy. It borrowed from a lot of different philosophies and religions and mythologies and philosophies. I am a four-wheeler. I got four wheels on the ground at all time. I'm on four wheels right now. Um, that should be what happens, old Johnny Lemon. I mean, that's happened to me many times. Never that I've been stranded per se, but I've traveled to different countries around the world, found a Masonic lodge, knocked on the door, and if I was lucky enough there were Masons there. There's many times where they've brought me into meetings, where they fed me. I was just in Bogota, Colombia, and I found the Masonic Lodge and went to it. I attended a meeting there. They gave me a ride to the airport. They fed me. I mean, they're your brother, right? So yeah, if you meet a brother who's in distress, who's stranded, certainly you should try to support them and help them. You should also try to extend that charity outside of Freemasonry as well. But definitely, yeah, there's been many times when I've been traveling, been in a new country, found the Masonic Lodge, and, got a meal there, talked to them. I will say, though, you as a Freemason should never rely on that exclusively. Because, again, if you're, traveling in a new town and you just figure you'll go find the Masonic Lodge and knock on the door, and they'll help you. I mean, if they don't know you're coming, they might not be there, right? The Masons might not be present. They might have, you want to try to be polite, give them a heads up, and let them know you're in town. But yeah, many Masons have helped me throughout the years, and I've tried to help many Masons as well. Um, I have never gotten naked in any degrees, Mr. Palad. So I've never gotten naked in any degrees. If I were to be required to, I wouldn't want to because I'm so handsome. It would, make the other Masons ashamed to see such a handsome Adonis. Um, Maverick, I'm not going to confirm nor deny that there's any handshakes. If you want to learn about the quote unquote modes of recognition, you got to join. Um, Rabbi Isaac Wise can say whatever he wants to. He's incorrect. Many people have been incorrect about Freemasons, including Freemasons themselves. It seems to me that the rabbi was looking and seeing more in Freemasonry than was actually there, or he was interpreting it through his own prism. Um, maybe not. There are what's called modes of recognition, and if you want to learn what they are, you got to join the Masonic Lodge. I'm not going to share them. I've examined it. I've also lived it. I think he was experiencing Freemasonry through his own prism and interpreting things in such a way that fit with his perspective, but is not actually true, which is something we all have to be careful of, myself included. One of the most dangerous things we can do is interpret things based on our own pre-existing beliefs and our own pre-existing kind of worldview and experiences, and not for what they actually are. At least that's my opinion, and that's not specific to Freemasonry. Rather, that is a danger that exists within life, and we all can do it. Uh, I mean, I don't think Trump is Jewish or a Freemason. I've never seen any evidence that Trump is a Freemason, and I don't believe he's Jewish either, but I guess I could be mistaken about the latter. Um, Luckily, I got a high IQ. I've opened up the lodges for people to see. I've done dozens of open houses over the years. I think they're great. I think we should do more open houses and let people see our Masonic buildings. Um, oh no, I don't deny that. I mean, like I said, Freemasonry has borrowed and has taken influence from many different organizations and groups. You know, Stoic philosophy, Kabbalah, Enlightenment era, Enlightenment era philosophy. But primarily, what it took from was unions. Well, but primarily it took from was medieval guilds, medieval stonemason guilds in particular, and stone Freemasonry. That's primarily the connections on which it's based. However, Egyptian mysticism, Freemasonry was not embarrassed or ashamed to borrow from other groups and from various philosophies, be they religious or otherwise, when developing their rituals. Um, I mean, celebrity, no real celebrity Freemasons. There's not really a lot of celebrity Freemasons. There's a few I've heard of, none I've ever had the chance to meet. Um, Unfortunately, I do think sometimes, Shaquille O'Neal's a Freemason, never met him. Brad Paisley talks about being a Freemason, never met him. Um, Sorry, some effing dude. I don't believe any of that is the case. I'm no fan of Donald Trump, but to my knowledge, he's not a Freemason. Um, so 33rd degree is not a Rosicrucianism degree. You mean there's Rose Qua. Um, sorry, OBMFM. He is not. Um, all right, Yuri. There's some cruelty to that statement. That sounds vaguely racist to me. I mean, I don't know if they all are or not, but who cares who they get married to? I don't think anybody's running America. I mean, the president and his cabinet are running it. Um, yes, you can, Jake. You can be a Christian and a Freemason. I know many Christians who are Freemasons. In fact, I'd say the majority of Freemasons are probably Christian. But I mean, there are Muslim and Jewish and Hindu and Sikh and indigenous. But you can absolutely be a Freemason and be a Christian. To be a Freemason, you must believe in a supreme being. Christian is one, if you're a Christian, you believe in a supreme being. So certainly. Um, very little about the Jesuits. I So it depends, Gabby, on your jurisdiction. I have been a Freemason since 2007, so almost 20 years. Um, when it comes to the length of time between degrees, for the first 3 degrees, mostly there's a minimum time frame, and mostly it's 30 days. So to go from your first degree to then get your second, very often you need to wait a minimum of 30 days. Uh, there can sometimes be an expectation that you get it done within a year, but that's not always required. I've known some Masons who've been an entered apprentice for decades, for 30 years and up. For whatever reason, they just never went beyond the first degree. To go then beyond that, to get your 32nd degree, you join Scottish Rite. And again, it depends on the jurisdiction. Sometimes it can be within a matter of months. Sometimes people will choose to do years. To be a 33rd degree Mason, that's by invitation. So that all depends on, you know, the invitation of other 33rds, basically. What are the benefits of being a Freemason? Asks Jake. The benefits of being a Freemason it depends. Every Freemason gets his own benefits from it. For me, it makes me feel closer to my family. Other Masons, it's helped them become more confident, make new friends, become better public speakers. For many, it's provided a type of social safety net or emotional safety net. How do you get your degrees? Well, to get your first degree, it's a matter of you applying to join and then going through the application process, meeting with the guys, getting to know them. Then to move beyond that, usually there's a type of, it's not an exam, like a written exam, but there's usually like a catechism where you're expected to be able to answer certain questions and memorize certain pieces of work. One of the benefits of being a Freemason is very often it's helped brothers develop skills and abilities when it comes to memorization. Do we got a D Molay in the crowd? D Molay is awesome. Masonic Youth Group, one of the great Masonic groups. I mean, if you want to call it a vetting process, you can. Don't forget, though, it's a vetting process that goes both ways. You are vetting the lodge to see if you're interested in joining, and they are vetting you. The topic of conversation is Freemasonry. I don't have any specific topics about Freemasonry or any specific topics within Freemasonry for these 1 a.m. streams. Rather, I just hang out and chat with people. Thank you, Michael Christopher. I hope you hit the like and subscribe button and consider doing a super chat of just 99 cents. I mean, hopefully not, because old Johnny Lemon, Freemasonry is not about world domination. We're not trying to dominate anything, certainly not the world. My ultimate goal is to be the best Mason I can be. You don't need to be a 33rd to be the best Mason you can be, so no. My ultimate goal is to be the best Freemason, I can be. Well, when you say enlightenment, do you mean enlightenment era? Do you mean enlightenment philosophy? Because I would say certainly we talk about, different we talk about the different things that Freemasonry has been influenced by or borrowed from or adopted from. One, type of philosophy that, Freemasonry heavily was influenced by or heavily grew from is Enlightenment era philosophy, like Voltaire, Condorcet, Diderot, Ben Franklin, George Washington. All of these guys were Enlightenment era thinkers or Enlightenment era politicians. And certainly Freemasonry was heavily influenced by Enlightenment era ideas. Certainly the idea of democracy and the importance of democratic institutions. And yes, Kevin, it did start with stonemasons. It started with stonemason guilds in the 15th and 16th centuries, and then evolved from stonemasons to speculative or Freemasons. Um, awesome, Scott Green. Yeah, DeMolay is a wonderful organization, a wonderful youth group. We're not hiding anything. We're maintaining certain private elements to maintain the bonds of brotherhood. Um, and you are welcome, Michael Christopher. Yes, I agree. Choose compassion. Um, welcome, Kevin. Kevin, please hit like and subscribe. I'm not a vegan myself, but if being a vegan is something important to you, then good for you. Um, I mean, kind of, right, Johnny Lemon? The older order which Freemasonry evolved from were stonemason guilds, which have existed, you could argue, since there's been stonemasons, so millions of years in some ways. But there was no older order of Freemasons or speculative Masons. That probably dates to, at the earliest, 1634. Um, All right, guys, this has been very fun, but I am going to go to sleep because it's 2:30 in the morning. Thank you all for joining. It's been another excellent stream. This channel recently has been growing like gangbusters. So John Q, 16, I could be getting that date wrong. It might be 1643, but I think it was 1634. That is when the first recorded speculative Masons are recorded in Scotland. I have no opinion on the Order of Snake and the Serpent, at least not tonight. Gabby, it's not about receiving anything. Really, to get an invitation, you just have to it's just a time thing. If you're around long enough and if you generally are supportive of Freemasonry and demonstrate, that you're a good dude and you're a 32nd degree, sooner or later you'll find yourself potentially invited. Well, I mean, there's no punishment for flatulence in the lodge. As someone who sat next to some Masons who've let out some absolute farts next to me, and I'm going to be honest with you, sometimes I've farted in lodge. I'm still here. So, wow, very cool, Kevin. UGLE, oldest Masonic Grand Lodge in the world. Originally from Premier Grand Lodge of England in 1717. I do not, and no one should like fentanyl, and please don't do fentanyl. I would not want anyone on stream to do it. It is a very bad idea. As someone who worked in the criminal justice system, I worked in a jail, and then I was a probation officer. I can confirm it really does ruin people's lives. Yes, Dank 9934. I've heard that one a few times. Brotherhood is very important, and loyalty is very important as well. However, loyalty needs to be tempered, right? We should never be loyal to people who are, for example, committing criminal activity or crimes. In those cases, we are expected to, advise the police and advise the appropriate authorities. And in some ways, you could argue that's a type of brotherhood. If somebody is committing a crime, to be a good brother to them is not to help them hide their criminal activity. It's to call them out to the authorities so they can, first face the appropriate consequences, and second, stop harming themselves and others. Because in my experience, if you are committing criminal acts, you're not just harming other people, you're harming yourself. Loaded is a very strong term. I've known Masons who are police officers, but it's definitely a rarity. It used to be more common, but that's just because Freemasonry used to be more common. When you had more Freemasons, you had more Freemasons who were janitors, as well as more Freemasons who were cops, and everywhere in between. All right, guys, I'm going to take off. I got to get up early tomorrow, and it's very late, but you'll see me tomorrow at 1 p.m. Thank you for helping my channel grow. It continues to go up, and it's greatly appreciated. We made it to over 3,000 subscribers. We're actually at closer to where we're at, 3,066. Maybe I'll make it to 3,100 by the time the stream is the year is finished. That'd be incredibly cool. All right, talk to you guys later. And by the way, I'm not a fan, some effing dude, of the pig emojis. As someone who worked in the criminal justice system, I can tell you cops have an incredibly challenging job, an incredibly hard job, and are true public servants. Yes, Ghost in the Machine, I am a traveling man, both literally, as in I travel a lot, and figuratively, as in I'm a Freemason. Ghost in the Machine, please hit like and describe. I'd greatly appreciate it. Nothing is going to destroy the Masons except maybe Masonry itself if we don't find a way to adapt and change with the times. But every organization ultimately is not, and this is true for anything, whether it be a country, a city, a religion, a group, an organization, a political party, a knitting club. It's ultimately not destroyed from without, it's destroyed from within.